We are on. So good morning, everybody. And again, thank you for joining. I'm going to be in present mode for most of the session, so I won't be able to see your faces or whatever. But if you do have a question, just unmute yourself and shoot that question out at me. One thing I did want to show you though, and I do this on all my sessions. If you haven't already done so, download that Google Meet Grid extension from the Chrome Web Store, and I will put that link in the chat. If you don't know what the chat is, if you've not been into one of these sessions, and Deb and I try and share these with you guys just so you're a little bit more accustomed to Google Meet. In the upper right hand corner, you'll see 2 or maybe 3 icons. In the far upper right, you'll see what looks like a little dialog box. That's the chat. To the left of that looks like 2 little heads with shoulders. That tells you who the participants are in the session. And then just to the left of that, if you've loaded it, is the Google Meet Grid extension. And if you click on that, you'll see everybody in grid format. For today, you're going to be watching my screen, but if you are in a staff train or a staff meeting with your building, that's a great way to see everybody's faces all at the same time. The choices that and I'll put the extension link into the chat. And then if you want to go get that, you certainly can. What will happen though is if you load it, and you can load it even right now, if you load it, you'd have to leave the meet in order to have the extension show up. So I just sent that link. You can load it, and then you can load it now, click the link, load it now, and then the next time you're in a meet, you'll have that grid view available. I like to check the boxes for highlight speakers, include yourself in the grid, and enable grid view by default. Those are my choices that I like, but it's up to you what you what you like to set for that. Okay, all right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to present my screen. And again, if you have any questions, just unmute yourself and shoot those questions out to everybody. The one thing I will mention is when someone is in present mode, it's almost best if you don't have the grid view on, because then you'll see my screen bigger and it helps you see it a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and point you to I just added it this morning. I added the OCS Technology Hub link to our district webpage. If you go over to the For Staff, you'll find the OCS Tech Hub is now in there. And it'll open in a new tab. And it sounds like someone is not muted, so if you could mute your audio, just so that the interference doesn't happen. Okay, so this brings you to the home page of our OCS Staff Technology Hub, and hopefully you've been here to check out the tutorials. We've got the tips and tricks page that I used to have that content on our district webpage, and I just went ahead and duplicated it. It's something that we didn't really keep up with all that much, but the intention is to really build that up and provide you guys with all sorts of connections for tips and tricks on making you more efficient on your MacBook, and maybe in certain apps, like just single tips and tricks, not just a full tutorial, but how do I add my signature to my email? Just simple things like that. How do I do a screenshot again? Can you tell me about Cinch a little bit more? So just some of those types of things. And then the tutorials that are specific for your particular grade level, the K4 tutorials or the 512 tutorials. For some of them, they're duplicated on both pages if they apply to both, but some things like Google Classroom are just for K4 and Schoology just 5 through 12. So we decided to differentiate that way and split them up in that fashion. But what we're going to be talking about specifically today is the digital resources tab of the Technology Hub. This is a thing that I've wanted to do for quite some time, and Deb and I have been working on all year long. And then to put this into this web page, Deb and Jennifer and I worked together to just kind of identify how we wanted to present the information to the staff. And I can tell you, when I was trying to put together the actual vehicle, what would be on this page, I think I went through 4 or 5 different scenarios. I had things set up differently. I have multiple pages that are hidden that I was trying, and this particular way to share this information seemed to be the most direct, the most helpful, the way that I could get as much information to you without being like extremely long and having to scroll forever to look at all the information. So basically, this page right here consists of a little bit of direction, an embedded Google Sheet. This is a Google Sheet that is embedded on the page. So this is a separate document. And when I want to edit that document, I actually go to that document. And then down below is just your reminders. If you don't see something on that list and you would like to use that for your curriculum, for your lessons, just kind of review those points that are down at the bottom of the page so that you follow the correct process. If you don't see something that we talk about today, if you don't see something that you are interested in using, what I've done is I've put a Google form down at the bottom in that bottom green section. So you complete that form. And I actually saw that somebody completed one of the, I haven't looked at it yet because it was late yesterday. They completed this Google form to have something else evaluated. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that during our time here today, so that it might be a little bit more clear as to when you need to complete that Google form. So I'm going to go back up to the spreadsheet because this is where we're going to spend most of our time this morning. You'll notice at the top there's the gray headers, and there's a couple of headers that are green. You'll also notice down at the bottom that there is an approved and a declined tab. In just a moment, I'm going to open this up in the Google Sheets environment. So I'm going to close out of, or not close, but I'm going to open this spreadsheet up into another tab. You can do that yourself, or you can just scroll right inside this spreadsheet that's embedded into this page. So when I move my cursor inside this embedded spreadsheet, I can just scroll up and down right inside there. I can also scroll to the right because there's more information to the right. And it does tell you up in the top green section, be sure to scroll to the right because there's there's important information to the right. So it's not just about the app, but it's about more information about that app that we want you to know. So if you roll inside of the spreadsheet, you'll find in the upper right-hand corner of that spreadsheet a little button that allows you to open that spreadsheet up in its own window, and it'll open a lot bigger, and you won't even have to scroll at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to open another tab, and it's going to open that spreadsheet up into this other window. Okay. When you do open it up into the other window, you'll notice that the gray bar, the title bar, and the app name are locked in place. So as you're scrolling through, you keep the title and you keep the app showing. It doesn't do that in the embedded link. So if you're watching on my screen, as you scroll, you see that the title stays. And if you scroll to the right, you see that the app and the icon and the title stay. That's the beauty of freezing a row and or a column when you have a spreadsheet. Okay, so when it's in the embedded format, Oops, wrong page. When it's in the embedded format, those things don't stay. It's just a limitation of the embedded format. So you notice you lose the title bars, and you lose the app and the icon when you scroll inside. So that's another downside to the embedded piece, but it's still a great convenience. You don't have to go anywhere. You can just scroll right inside there. Okay, so whichever is more comfortable for you, you go for it. I'm going to flip over to the spreadsheet side again. Oh, and one thing I did forget, and I'm going to do this just because I think it's fun. I'm going to flip back over, and I'm going to turn grid view off, and maybe not only. Let's see. Nope. You should be able to see me at a relatively decent size, but I'm just going to stand up because I think it's kind of cute. When I was at my tech conference, I got this, and I wanted to share it with you because I've been living in Clever and working in Clever for a lot of hours over these past few weeks. And Clever is a great way to they have an agreement with lots of software companies, and there's a lot of what's the buzzword is single sign-on, which means that Clever's like the middleman. Clever speaks to PowerSchool, and then it gets all its information, its teachers, its students, its courses, everything from PowerSchool, and then Clever, based on our directive, shares that information out to these application companies, and that's how it all works. And so I've been living in this Clever and single sign-on world a lot lately, and I thought it would be appropriate. So I'm going to stand up. My superpower is now Clever. So this is Clever is my single sign-on superpower. So I thought it was the appropriate shirt to wear today, and I just thought I'd share that with you. So I am 100% living my single sign-on superpower today. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I'm going to flip back over to the sheet that talks a lot about that. So again, talking about how to digest all of this information. I'm going to use, let's see. I'm going to use IXL. No, I'm going to use Study Island. Study Island. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to Study Island. There we go. So I'm going to use this just to start off with. All right, so I'm on the Study Island row of the spreadsheet. And of course, it took me a long time just to get all those icons. It was amazing. It was fun. It was, but just to get all the icons to give you a better visual. If you look at the second column, which is the title column, all of the titles are links to the page for that particular application. So if you wanted to find out even more information, this doesn't necessarily mean how you will connect those. So be sure that you're aware of that. Just because the link is there, that doesn't mean that you have to go to that web page and do something. It's just there so that you can gain more information. The next column is the description and the information. So this would be, if you weren't familiar with the software package, this is my very brief synopsis of what this application does. So you can find a lot more information by going to the actual applications website, but this just gives you a general idea of what this application does. The next column is the grade level. And this is based on a couple of things. This is based on what the application says that it is, that it works for. So for example, Study Island is a K-12 piece of software. It works for any student, any teacher in grades K through 12. But it might not list that if I couldn't get all of those grade levels working, okay? So by you seeing K-12 in there, that actually means that that application is working for K-12, but it's also what we as a district are recommending the use for. Okay, so just so that you know that the grade level that it applies to, but also what we've got set up. The next column is the subject areas, pretty self-explanatory. I think, and that was all based on me and what I was interpreting. I would go to the website and I would see what they, because some of these I'm not extremely familiar with. I get them set up, but I'm not really extremely familiar with the application itself. And so if I messed up on any of those, just shoot me an email and say, hey, Study Island actually goes to foreign language as well, and I'll add it in there. So that was just me and telling whether that tool, what subject areas that tool applies for. Then we get into these 3 columns that have the green headings, and so this is where I want to spend a little bit more time. And this is where it might get a little confusing. So that's why I thought having this session today might be beneficial. So this first column in my spreadsheet, column F, has to do with how we had things set up prior to our closure. So a lot of these applications, we had already had situations set up and had things rolling prior to our closure. So for example, in Study Island, already we had Eisenhower, Jerusalem, and Star that paid for Study Island, paid for their services, and I already had those things set up in Clever. That means that if any teacher or student logged on to Clever and they were from Eisenhower, Jerusalem, and Star, those individuals would see the Study Island button in their Clever environment. If you were from Clay or Facet or Coy, you would not see the Study Island button. And if we scroll up and down, and I want to just jump around, just scroll to some of the other ones, like for example, Scholastic Learn at Home. I'm just scrolling up a little bit. That it says none because we didn't even have that as a feature anywhere. In fact, they didn't even have that feature prior to closures. This was something that they added after after school districts were being closed. Newsella, and I was on a phone conference with them the other day, and I wanted to make sure, because is it News ELA? Is it Newsela? And it is pronounced Newsella. So I just wanted to share that out. So the one right up above it, Nearpod, that one was dependent on who had signed up previously. So some of these things, people took it upon themselves to sign up on their own. And so I just wanted to I wanted to identify that based on all these different things. If I go down to, or go up to iReady, iReady was one that we used as a whole district. So that was already K-12, all students, all teachers, and everybody was accessing via Clever. So if you look at the next column for that one, that indicates there's no new users necessary because we were already doing it K-12. We already had it available inside of Clever or inside of somewhere K-12. So there was no need to do anything with it. All right, so I'm going to scroll back down to Study Island just to kind of continue on in that fashion there. So again, we talked about how Study Island prior to our closures was Eisenhower, Jerusalem, and Star. Then all of these companies said they began to offer up their services for free during our closures. I can't tell you, and you guys were inundated. I was inundated. Everyone was inundated with all of these offerings for all of these companies offering their services, their full services, their paid services for free during our closure. And so what it was just kind of us weeding through those offers and seeing what best fit our district. What were we going to move forward with all of these things? Study Island was one that was awesome. And they just basically said, we'll offer it up K-12, and we'll offer it up through Clever, and we'll offer it up with rostering and single sign-on. So have at it. And so they were one of the ones that, that just kind of opened the floodgates, if you will. So in that column G, it indicates anything that was updated, so updated connections during the closure. So if there was any additional add-ons that the company offered up and that we took advantage of, that's listed there. So Study Island, Koi, Facet, and Clay all now can access via Clever. And then the next column has to do with additional notes for connections during closure. So in other words, all right, so I've got Study Island available to me. I see it's available through Clever, but tell me more. And so what I tried to do is I tried to give you guys, as if I would, kind of like as if I were speaking to you, giving you the information of how it all works. So for example, our example that we're looking at, Study Island has expanded our access for everyone in the district. K-12 full rosters are shared with Study Island. When you connect, you will see all of your courses and all of your students, much like Schoology and EduTyping. So I tried to give an example. Schoology, you guys don't have to set up, so any of our 512 teachers, you guys don't, it's not through Clever, so I don't want to confuse you there. But the way Schoology works is you guys don't have to add students, you don't have to add courses, they just automatically show up. And that's the way that Study Island works. Kind of like EduTyping. If you're a K-8 teacher and you utilize EduTyping, when you log into EduTyping, you see all of your courses, you see all of your students. When your students log in, they don't have to do anything. As a new student comes on board, and they are automatically able to access these accounts. So that's the way the rostering works, and that's the beauty of Clever. Again, as I said initially, Clever gets its information from PowerSchool, and then based on the application, so Study Island allows rostering. Study Island has an agreement with Clever to allow rostering. So that's why we can push all of our rosters and all of our students, all of our courses to that application. Some applications don't work with Clever that way, and it's all based on what that application pays for with Clever. So Clever's free for us. The applications actually pay Clever to be a part of Clever. So it's kind of a cool thing. So Study Island pays the big bucks to Clever so that they can offer rostering for their school districts. Some of the other ones are just single sign-on. So let's see here. Okay, so if we go to Nearpod. Nearpod is an application that all K-12 teachers can access via Clever. However, you don't see courses and rosters. What this is a true single sign-on, a true SSO. When you go into Clever and you click that Nearpod button, if you didn't already have an account, it will generate an account based on your Google account, and it'll just get you in. So it's called single sign-on, but there's no rostering. There's no courses and students that you see once you get in there, okay? But Nearpod is one that has offered all K-12 school districts the full premium level. And if you haven't been into Nearpod, it's awesome because it allows you to create a student-paced mode. Everyone gets the premium level, new and old users. So it's just about you digesting all of the information. If there's a particular, so just fan through the applications, read through the description, and if it's something that you feel seems interesting to you, then pan over and see how you can connect to that particular application. And we tried to make it as clear and as helpful as possible in the additional notes section. So that's the once over, and I tried to throw in there also, how Clever works a little bit. Some of these applications are also embedded into Schoology, and so that is listed in the additional notes section as well. So if you are a 512 teacher, some of these are additional features inside of Schoology, as well as or possibly instead of clever. So that all of that would be explained in the additional notes. So I'm going to turn it over to you and see if you have any questions. I'm going to flip back over. Does anybody have any questions about how all of this works? Or maybe you want me to explain a particular application that you were looking at and it just didn't quite make sense. All right, awesome. Well, I am a minute early. Look at that. Well, I won't be once I finish this all up. So thank you all for joining me. I did record this session, so it'll be up onto our OCS Tech Hub sometime this morning.